Poetry and curry sauce is one of his favorites. He also very much likes sandesh. Rasgul, sandesh. He also very much likes green mango chutney. That means unripe mangoes, unripe ones. He would never eat ripe mangoes. Do not offer him ripe mangoes. Where is everyone? I thought there was going to be 100 devotees here this morning. Where is everyone? What happened? You put the advertisement out, but it said midday.
It's far already.
Huh?
Like from Manila coming to Taguig, they're still adjusting what to ride, how to come here.
Just walk. Chant your japa. You can chant your 16 rounds. Takes over 2 hours to walk here. You can finish 16 rounds on the way, save money, good for the environment. Hare Krishna. So, well, unfortunately we don't have connection to the PowerPoint. But this, I might need, I don't know what I need. Is there a tall box I can put the computer on, perhaps? That green stand over there would do. I can see one nice green and black kind of thing that goes up there. There's another one. Okay, there's another one here. That might work. Let's see. There's so much money and he can't lift it up. There must be 1 million pesos in there at least. There's so much money in all the donation boxes. You have to, put it sort of in front of me. You can put another one here for the water, one there for the computer, and one for the water and whatever else may be there. So as you're probably all aware, today is a fast day. It's Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj's appearance day. And it's the day when our Srila Prabhupada worships his Guru Maharaj. That's why we've made the arrangements on the Vyasasan. And Srila Prabhupada would talk about his spiritual master on this day. And we'll try to speak a few words in the line of Srila Prabhupada. We are very short on time, and there's not much. We haven't got songbooks here. Maybe you can find something online. I don't know if you have mobile internet here or not. Oh, hey, Vaishnav Thakura will sing. Song by Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Try to find it. Oh, there's one. I don't need a songbook. I don't need one. Some others can share. Oh, hey, Vaishnava Sakura, Doyara Sagara, Hey Jase Karuna Kori. Yada Sakara, Hey Jase, Diya Padachaya, Chore Amaya, Tomara Charana Dori. Diyapadachaya Shodhaya Maya Tomara Charanadori Diyapadachaya Shodhaya Maya Tomara Charanadori Jaya Vegatami Jaya Dosa Sodi Jaya Guna Deho Dase Jai Satsanga Deva Hai Amare Bose Chi Sange Aste Eka Kiyaman Nahi Pai Bolo Harinama Sankirtane Eka Kiyamana Nahi Pai Bolo Harinama Sankirtane Sumiti Kori Shwada Bindu Diya Deho Krishna Namadane Krishna se tomara Krishna dite para Tomara saka kiyache Krishna se tomara dite para Tomara saka Amito Kandala Krishna Krishna Boli Dai Kava Pache Pache Amito Kandala Krishna Boli Dai Kava Pache Pache Oh hey Vaishnava Thakura Soyara Sagara Egase Kuruna Kori Oh hey Vaishnava Thakura Soyara Sagara Egase Kuruna Kori Diyapadachaya Shodhaya Maya Tomara Charana Tori Diyapadachaya Shodhaya Maya Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Gaura Mandir Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Maharaj was sometimes known as the Acharya's son. Sometimes he's known as a ray of Vishnu. Prabhupada called him the Vaikuntha Guru, or Vaikuntha man rather. And sometimes he's known as Singha Guru. Singha, if you've been to Singapore, you know what Singha means. Singha means lion. Singapore means lion city. So he is known as Singha Guru. He was very fierce sometimes, yet as gentle as a lamb at the same time. Shri Guru Vandana Kori Tanhara Charana Dori Shri Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada Harayata Siksha Guru Sabe Vancha Kalpataru Kripaka Gutuka Vishad. I offer my obeisances to my spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada, and take hold of his lotus feet, and unto my various Siksha Gurus who are all like desire trees. I pray, please be merciful and remove all my sorrows. That was written by Srila Prabhupada. And you'll find that in the beginning of one of his first booklets actually, Gita Gan, a shortened version of the Bhagavad Gita in kind of prose or poetic, almost poetic form. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati iti namane. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace. Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati was very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at His lotus feet. Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Dayataya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Varshabhanavi Devi Daita Das, another name of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, who is favored by Srimati Radharani, and who is the ocean of transcendental mercy and the deliverer of the science of Krishna. Madhuryo Chula Premaja Shri Rupanuga Bhaktita Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostite. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, the personified energy of Sri Chaitanya, who delivers devotional service, which is enriched with conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, coming exactly in the line of revelation of Srila Rupa Goswami. Namaste Gauravani Shrimurtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruda Apasiddhanta Dvantahadine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are the personified teachings of Lord Chaitanya. You are the deliverer of the fallen souls. You do not tolerate any statement which is against the teaching of devotional service enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami. There's some Mangalacharna prayers. We're going to read now a poem. Where's Ashraya this morning?
She's at work, Guru Maharaj.
Oh, she works today, huh?
She will be going to Antipop.
Oh, okay, good. Because she was up real late last night. We kept you and her up late last night. I was in an angry mood last night. I don't usually get in an angry mood, but it just happened. Many things happened all at once when I got back from the program, and I had to let it out. So I hope she recovered. You know what we talked about in the car, about the program, and then up came a poster with a completely different schedule on it. Anyway, all's good that ends well. Is that right? No. All's good. All's good that ends well. Okay, this is a poem of Srila Prabhupada. In 1936, the last year of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj's physical presence in this planet, and during that year, Srila Prabhupada wrote one poem as a Vyasa Puja homage to his spiritual master. He wrote an essay as well, but this poem was that which stood out, you could say, in many ways. In fact, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj then, when he heard Prabhupada's offering, he told the editors of the Gaudiya Patrika, I think it was, to publish it in the magazine, in the newsprint. He was so inspired by this poem of Prabhupada's. So please listen. I wish we had it on the screen. It's very colorful. Adore, adore ye all the happy day, blessed in heaven, sweeter than May, when he appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, his divine grace. O my Master, the evangelic angel, give us thy light, light up thy candle, struggle for existence, the human race, the only hope is divine grace. Misled we are, all going astray, save us, Lord, our fervent pray. Wonder thy ways, to turn our face, adore thy feet, your divine grace. Forgotten Krishna, we fallen souls, pay most heavy the illusion's toll. Darkness around, all untraced, the only hope is divine grace. Message of service thou hast brought, a healthful life as Chaitanya wrought. Unknown to all is full of grace, that's your gift, your divine grace. The next stanza is the one which really appeals to Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. Absolute is sentient, thou hast proved, impersonal calamity thou hast removed. This gives us a life, anew and fresh, worship thy feet, your divine grace. Had you not come, who would taught the message of Krishna, forceful and bold? That's your right, you have the mace, save me of fallen, your divine grace. The line of service as drawn by you is pleasing and healthy like morning dew. The oldest of all, but in their dress, miracle done, your divine grace. That was Srila Prabhupada's offering to him. He didn't sing it, it was written in poetic form. So, to the life and pastimes of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, Prabhupada talked about it quite a few times, and there are biographies produced. There's a book called the Rara Vishnu by Rupa Vilas Prabhu, which was published about 30 years ago. Beautiful little book on his life. There are other books in the Gaudiya Math, of course. There are many different writings. But just recently, maybe a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago maybe, Bhakti Vikash Maharaj published the Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav. This is probably the greatest of all the presentations in terms of its volume and nature and its detail and its presentation on the life and teachings of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. I don't know if you have it here. Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav. It's a 3-volume series, and he did 30 years of research before publishing it. He edited, re-edited over and over and over again to make sure it was authentic, as much as it could be. He started interviewing Prabhupada's god brothers round about late 80s. Late 80s. He was in Bangladesh, Bengal, and then he started with this mission to publish this masterpiece, which he did eventually after over 30 years of work on the book. About to conk out again. And many of them, of course, had left the world. He researched every single piece of literature that was available related to Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. He went to almost all the Gaudiya maths, searching through their archives and files, talking to devotees who knew Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. He studied so many angles and aspects, newspaper reports, everything that was available, gathering up many, many photographs from here and there. Finally, he published this book. So we won't be going into that today, of course, because that would take us many days to read. But it's a most amazing read, I must say. Many of you have not even read the Bhagavad Gita fully, as we found out the other night, wasn't it, at the program? They're all devotees, half of them initiated. Only about 6 devotees put their hand up, saying out of 70 that they've read the whole Bhagavad Gita. And about, I think, 10 or 11 actually had the Bhagavad Gita. Many of them never even had it. And of those, only about half, if that, had actually read it fully. So there's a lot of reading to do, a lot of hearing to do. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, anyway, the history, of course, is long. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was his literal father. And he was praying for a ray of Vishnu, somebody to take up the banner, so to speak, you know. Was this when the Olympic Games, what they call this, the light, what they call it? The baton. When you're on a relay race, you know, a relay race, you have to pass the baton and then the next, like this. You probably, at school, you probably had relay races, huh? And like that, someone to carry this message, powerful and bold, into the world. Because the world was, outside of India, was completely in ignorance of Krishna consciousness, entirely. And within in India, 99% of people were either Mayavadis, smarter Brahmins, Sahajas, Christians, Muslims. Practically there was hardly a handful of pure Vaishnavas. Hardly a handful. And those, most of them were not in any way preaching Krishna consciousness. Bhaktivinoda revived this mission and began this great mission without any institutional arrangement, just spontaneously inspiring people to chant. But it was many namahats, over 500 namahats he opened. But still it wasn't particularly organized in some ways, in terms of the process, but not in terms of the institutional aspect. So he was praying for help to spread this movement. So in February, I think February the 6th or 2nd, I can't remember, in 1874, in Jagannath Puri, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's wife, Bhagavati Devi, gave birth to a baby boy. They named the boy Bimala Prasad, the mercy of Bimala Devi. It was like some goddess, expansion of the goddess of fortune, who resides there in Jagannath Puri, and all the offerings are first offered to her. They gave him the name Bimala Prasad, and the child was born a very special way. He had the cord, the umbilical cord between the mother and the baby. It was wrapped around his head just like a Brahmin thread when he was born. Very rare, sometimes happens. Very indicative of his spiritual nature. And they call the astrologer, it's traditional that when a child is born, in India particularly, they call a qualified astrologer to read the horoscope. The astrologer read his horoscope and said, I have done many, many horoscopes in my life, but I have never before seen such a horoscope filled with all the signs of a great personality. This child would become world famous as a brilliant teacher of life's ultimate goal. So he predicted it in the astrological chart. And, like that. Mahapurush. You'll have to flip over because you don't have a PowerPoint. You could see some nice pictures, but there's nothing to show you. Anyway, we'll just go on with a little bit of the summary of his life. When the child was just a few months old, 3 or 4 months old, this will be in end of June, beginning of July, it was time for RadhaMadhava. Now Bhaktisiddhanta Thakura was a chief magistrate. He was also, chief magistrate, by the way, was designated the responsibility to oversee the administration of the Jagannath Puri temple. That was how it worked. So he had that job too. And because he had a big position, he had special privilege, you could say. When the Rath car was coming from the main temple to the Gundisha Mandir, the Rath car suddenly stopped. It wouldn't move. Right in front of Bhaktivinoda's house. His house was on the main road, Grand Street. And it stopped right there in front of his house, Grand Road. It wouldn't move. They couldn't move it. And that happens regularly, but this time it stopped in front of his house. So Bhaktivinoda Thakura's wife, Bhagavati, brought the young baby out to take darshan of Lord Jagannath. Because she's the wife of the chief magistrate, she was able to go right up onto the cart itself in front of Lord Jagannath, and she placed her child right in front of Lord Jagannath. And when she did that, Lord Jagannath's garland fell and landed on the child. Another indication of his greatness. When the child was actually they moved. Bhaktivinoda Thakura's position, he was moving quite often with his occupation and so on. They moved to somewhere, I think near Krishnanagar somewhere. I can't remember. A little tired anyway. But they moved, and that time it was the mango season. When you have the mango season in India, it's like a festival. Mangoes everywhere. They're falling off the trees. You just help yourself practically. It's the mango season. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur acquired a big number of mangoes which were to be offered to the deity. But the little child, who was about 2 years old, saw the mangoes. Nice, juicy, sweet mangoes are there. And he took one mango and began to eat the mango. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur quickly saw what happened. Stop! How can you eat this mango? It is not offered to the Lord. This is a great offense. To eat food not offered to the Lord. So, anyway, because he was a little child, he left it at that. But Bhaktisiddhanta didn't leave it, or Bhima Prasad didn't leave it at that. He decided there and then he would never eat a mango for the rest of his life. 2-year-old child. Amazing. And he didn't. Only, as mentioned earlier, green mango, unripe mango, cooked and made a chutney that he liked very much. He used to eat that. So there's another incident which took place, indicating the greatness of he was a brilliant scholar. He was known as Shrutidhar. But at school, whatever he heard, he remembered. He reads something, he could remember it, word by word, practically. Shrutidhar. He was a lifelong brahmachari. He never passed semen his whole life. He, however, did say that if I could be assured by having sex that the children they're born will become pure devotees, I'd have sex 100 times and more. But we all know that even Advaitacharya's own sons didn't all become devotees. Prabhupada's sons didn't become devotees. A little bit, one of them. But not much. It's Kali Yuga that's not very sure at all. Anyway, he was a great scholar. He grew up assisting his father. And his father said to his children, if you don't help me in my work, you can go and eat your meals somewhere else. If you're not willing to help me produce these books, you can go and eat somewhere else. Don't come to my home. So the children were all helping him. He had 12 kids. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj being, I don't know what he was, 4th, 5th, something, of the children. And he was particularly interested in helping his father to edit, publish, print these literatures, which his father was producing. And even at the age, I don't know what age it was, 12 or something, he wrote one poem, quite a famous poem called Boread. I've never read it. Kind of natural philosophical kind of book. And as he grew in age, stature, of course, he was, by the time he was about 15, because he memorized the Bhagavad Gita when he was super young. He could recite, he could even read it back to front, apparently. Chinese style. He formed, when he was at school, early college, the August Assembly, which is a philosophical group at the school that he went to in Calcutta, and they would have lots and lots of debates. He studied all the various scriptures of the world, the various philosophies of the world, even Western philosophy. He studied ardently all different schools of thought in order to be able to defeat them all. You kind of got to know what your opponent's philosophy is before you can really address it. So he studied all these various branches and so on and so forth. And then, as he went through his life, he was very expert at astrology, very expert. But he gave that up as soon as he seriously took up preaching Krishna consciousness. He gave all that up. He was also very expert at mathematics. In fact, he took the responsibility for editing the book Sarasvati, which was an ancient book on astrology. And he put that edited, produced it, everything. And he became quite famous in the horoscope world because of his literary contribution there. And he was a great mathematician also, brain. He had no inclination to get married, of course, none whatsoever. But he did spend some time in occupational service, working, mainly for the king of Tripura. He was his librarian for a while there to earn some income. And whilst he was there, that's where he read many of these other philosophies and commentaries and so on. And I just have to refer, I'm so tired, I need a little bit of a framework here. There isn't one. I just don't usually have one. But Prabhupada said, from childhood he was a strict brahmachari. He underwent severe penances for starting this great movement, worldwide movement. That was his mission. So as he grew a little in age, his father wanted him to get initiation. But who to get initiated from? There were no qualified Goshtyanandi Vaishnavas, preachers. There were some Bhajananandis, Babajis, who were pure devotees. One of them was called Gokishore Das Babaji, who happened to come quite often to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. By this time, they were also living, they had a house in Godrumadweep across the river from Mayapur, as well as in Krishnanagar. So he would regularly come there to see Bhaktivinoda, and Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj would also get the chance to meet him. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur requested his son to take initiation from Gokishore Das Babaji. So Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Maharaj went in search of Gokishore, he's a Babaji, and he found him eventually. And he appealed to him to please accept him as a disciple. Well, Gokishore Das Babaji was illiterate. He couldn't read or write. Couldn't sign his name, nothing. He said, how can I initiate you? I am an ignorant man. You are a very highly intellectual and educated man. I have no learning at all. They were very sophisticated. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj cursed his education practically as a hurdle or a burden on the progress of spiritual life. Anyway, he appealed and appealed. Gokishore Das Babaji said, okay, come back tomorrow. I will ask Mahaprabhu about this. So he went home and went back again, went a day later or a few days later, and fell at the feet of Gokishore begging his mercy. Oh Gurudev. In fact, he started to sing, and the third time he sang. Oh Gurudev, did you ask Mahaprabhu? Did you ask him, please? Did you ask him? Gokishore said, oh, I forgot. So he went back home again. He said, come back tomorrow or a few days' time, whatever. This time when Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj went home, he was then being with Prasad. When he went in his home, his father inquired what happened. He told him, said, now, if you don't get initiated, don't come back here again. Don't come back home. See, pretty heavy, huh? His own son. So he went and he appealed and he appealed. And he said, my dear Gurudev, did you ask Mahaprabhu? He said, yes, I asked him. What did he say? He didn't reply. At that moment, Bhaktisiddhanta began to cry, so it says. And some say he started saying, Gurudev, creep up into the earth. That song, very famous song. And he broke down. It was the use of my life. I will throw myself into the river Jalangi or whichever river they were near, if you will not accept me. So then Gokishore Das Babaji, his heart melting, accepted Bhaktisiddhanta as his disciple. And so I'll say he just got the name Bhakti in front of Siddhanta. He was already called Siddhanta because of his learning. And others say father gave him the name Varshabhanavi Devi. That's questionable. Different schools of thought are there. But he had these names, Sri Varshabhanavi Devi, Dayitaya Das, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati at that time. So he took initiation, and that was in the year 1900, and was continued to help his father in his publications. And around about 1904, he underwent, actually when they were in Puri, father moved back to Puri for a while, and there was one, RadhaMadhava, he was actually a follower of Bhaktivinoda, but he became a kind of self-proclaimed acharya himself, and began preaching basically against Bhaktivinoda Thakura. He started preaching this, you may, if you ever go to Puri, to the Siddhabako. The Siddhabako is where Haridas Thakur is. And there you'll see the devotees, they're chanting particular mantras, but it's called Rasabhas. He started this movement which is Rasabhas. It's not actually correct according to Shastra. And he was preaching, many people coming in, very nice, sounds very nice, but making up these mantras which were incompatible mantras according to Rasatattva. And Bhaktivinoda was pointing out, and Bhaktisiddhanta was especially strong against this. So much so that Bhaktivinoda had to send him out of Puri. There were threats against his life. A young man, threats against his life. He was so challenging this group. Anyway, back in Mayapur, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj then decided that he would undergo austerities to really. He wanted to assist his father in preaching the message of Mahaprabhu, so he underwent great austerities for approximately 5 years. His target was a billion names. A billion names in a month. No, maybe more, 10 billion. I can't remember, a lot of names. I calculated a few months ago that, interesting how many names we've all chanted up to now. I don't know how many you've chanted. But I calculated approximately 1 billion so far. It's a lot of names, but I don't know what it's done for me. I'm still stuck in the material world. What to do? Anyway, I think 10 billion, I can't remember. A huge number of rounds he vowed to chant. And this went on. He was living in Puri, in a straw hut in Puri. And there was no temples at that time in Puri. There were some temples, but not Gaudiya Vaishnava wasn't there. The yoga peak had been begun, temple had been begun by his father. That was there in a partly finished state. But there was nothing like now. It was like a jungle. No houses hardly at all. So he underwent great austerity, just chanted day and night like Haridas Thakura, more or less for 5 years. And only ate, basically he would just eat plain khichdi with no salt off the floor, he just lick it up. Very austere lifestyle. He was determined to become a powerful representative of his father. So after some years, his Guru Maharaj asked him to desist and continue with his services. So he did. And in 1911, his father was requested on behalf of the few Gaudiya Vaishnavas who were there to defend their cause. There was a big assembly in a place called Midnapore in then Bengal. I think it's now in Orissa or vice versa. And he had to defend this. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur fell terribly sick with fever and couldn't go. And so he said, who will stand up for Mahaprabhu's pure message? Who is there that is willing to defend the pure line of Rupa and Sanatana? So his son, Bhaktisiddhanta, came forward. I will do it. So you will do it? Yes. And he quickly wrote a long essay on the position, because the debate was about whether a Vaishnava could worship the deity if they weren't born Brahmin. That was one of the topics. In other words, you were a Brahmin by birth, not by qualification. That was the argument. So he wrote this incredibly long, beautiful article. And he went there to Midnapore, and on behalf of his father, he presented this article. And everyone began to clap. It was an infallible treatise. Even the opposition submitted. They submitted. The police were pouring water, people were pouring water, and the police were gathering the water and throwing it over. A very powerful preacher. Very powerful. So after that, of course, his father passed away, then his Guru Maharaj passed away, and he was very heartbroken. Now who will correct me? Who will chastise me now? So my gurus have both left. Who is there to chastise me? So he was lamenting. And of course he more or less received this missionary instruction to spread the movement. So he went, how on earth is this going to happen? How is it going to happen? And he was feeling somewhat dejected in many ways. But one day when he was sitting there meditating on this mission and meditating upon the order of his father and his guru, suddenly a piece of paper floated in with the cardinal instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu written on it. And then that night he had a vision during the night. During this vision, Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva came dancing into where he was. The Goswamis appeared there. His guru, his father, all the acharyas appeared there. Assured him, have no fear. Go boldly ahead and preach this message. We are with you always. We are with you always. So he took that up. He still didn't know what to do. By this time he actually had been preaching. In fact, he had disciples even in the presence of his own guru. He was initiating. He had one of his main disciples then was encouraging him to preach, to start a mission. So he thought, if I'm going to start a mission, I have to take sannyas. There was no Gaudiya Vaishnava sannyasi to take sannyas from. Sometimes people misuse this example. There wasn't a Gaudiya Vaishnava sannyas to take sannyas from. There wasn't one, not even one. So he took a sannyas and a picture of his Guru Maharaj, you could say. It's on a transcendental level. They're manjaras, they're eternal associates. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj is Nayana Manjari in the spiritual world. He's eternal. Manjara is in Rupa Goswami, or Rupa Manjara's party, so he's not an ordinary person like us. We can't imitate these things, using as a precedent. And Prabhupada never established or indicated that. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, after that, taking sannyas, then one of his followers, Kunti Bihari, suggested that they start preaching in Calcutta. So he went to Calcutta and opened the first branch, which is now an ISKCON property. It's in Altadingi, near the airport. And that's where the mission started, in terms of the mission, an institution. And it was there in Altadingi that Srila Prabhupada first met Bhaktisiddhanta, who gave him that instruction. You educated young men, you should make it your life's mission to preach this Krishna consciousness in the English language. So Prabhupada took that. Prabhupada said that he learned everything pretty much about about Vaishnavism, not Gaudiya, not so much, maybe Gaudiya, but Vaishnavism from his father. But from Bhaktisiddhanta he particularly learned what we call the RadhaMadhava, the importance of the printing press and books and distributing books. That he learned from his father, from Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. Prabhupada said that. So he started then to preach, opening up branches, making many disciples here and there, traveling widely throughout India, starting many revolutionary preaching programs unknown to previous sadhus. He even sent his disciples overseas the first time this had happened. He went on radio. He used to travel sometimes in opulent cars, purposely for reasons to show that everything should be utilized, that actually the best of everything should be utilized in the service of Krishna. You're representing Krishna. The best should be that, like ambassador comes, you don't just put him up in some kind of pension house. The ambassador of America comes, you put him in a pension house, in a kind of dormitory with 20 other people. No, he had a top class apartment somewhere, or in the big hotel somewhere. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj would use these things. Sometimes he'd dress in Western clothes. He'd even sometimes, once he established the center in Mayapur and completed the building of the yoga pit on behalf of his father who was deceased, he completed that. And then he would invite dignitaries, English, at that time it was under the English rule, to Mayapur, the chancellor, different people of university and the Bengal leaders, invite them to Mayapur, even bringing cooks from Calcutta if necessary to cook meat for them because they couldn't live without meat. He also brought Western toilet in, although it wasn't connected to any sewerage. He brought there's just a pit underneath. He brought a Western toilet in too, so they could feel at home. Old ladies, First Lady and things like this. He preached widely to scholars, so much. Powerful, powerful preacher, very much against this Brahmin by birth philosophy. Smarta Brahmins, strongly preached against them. Very strong. And he established the diorama exhibitions. This is one of his greatest preaching tools, unknown in those days. There was no electronics or technology as we know it. So this diorama exhibits were quite revolutionary, and he would put them on a huge affair. It covered like 10 acres or more, each display. It wasn't just dioramas about Krishna consciousness. It was like a fair. He would have wrestlers and animals and all kinds of things there to attract people, but throughout it was like a diorama of the philosophy and Krishna and Leela and so on and so forth. a huge area of land, and they would go from one place to the next. He re-established the Brajmandal Parikrama. He re-established the Navadvip Dham Parikrama, and would go himself regularly on the parikramas. Sometimes he was even stoned. In fact, there was a murder attempt against him in Mayapur because he was so strong preacher, especially after he established the right place for Gaurkishore Das Babaji's samadhi. It was being debated. Different scrupulous persons were trying to claim the samadhi of Gaurkishore Das Babaji for money reasons, but he fought with them. He fought them. He was very powerful. He was just at that time a brahmachari. And they claimed, "Who are you? You're not even a sannyasi, you're not a Babaji." He said, "Yes, but I am the only initiated disciple of Gaurkishore Das Babaji. And and my Guru Maharaj was completely chaste, and I'm also following that. But if any among you have not had sex in the last 1 year, you may take this samadhi." He went right down to 3 days. But nobody came forward. All these Babajis. And the police sergeant was there to judge. He was shocked. He said, how can you say like this? He said, "The Lord will decide. The Lord will decide." So they all left. And he performed the samadhi and arranged the samadhi of his Guru Maharaj. Like that. He published many, many books, magazines, to spread Krishna consciousness. He initiated many sannyasis. He opened up 64 mats, like temples throughout India. Burma was also part of India. Bangladesh, Nepal, well, maybe not Nepal, but Bangladesh, Pakistan, all these countries were basically part of India at that time, Greater India. And he would go wherever the need was and preach very strongly. Printing press, he would have the printing press sometimes on his logo of the Gaudiya Math. They had on one side the path of Vaidhi. The logo is like a mass round. On one side was the Vaidhi path, the other was the Raganuga path, spontaneous path of devotion, and the regulated path. On that side was deity worship, the study of certain scriptures, and Varnashram, all those things on that side. On the other side is Raganuga Bhakti. And there he had the printing press, the preaching, and the books of the Goswamis. The path to Raganuga Bhakti, he said, is through this printing of books and distilling books. It's not just some, philosophy or entering into the mood of Raganuga. But this is the way that mood evokes or awakens. He used to have the printing press in the temple room itself. In the temple room. One end the printing press, the other end the deities. He considered the printing press none different than Krishna. He gave it the name Brihat Mridanga, the great Mridanga, which could be heard, he said, all over the world. Whereas the Mridanga can only be heard a block or two. The printing press can be heard everywhere. It means to conquer the world. Now we have technology and stuff, but then it was printing press was the only means. Anyway, he did many things. Big temple in Calcutta, Bag Bazaar, still there. Not very lively. I was there last year. And of course, and then so many things were there. And he also had living. He would sometimes go to Vrindavan, stay in the house which his father established in Radhakund. And whilst he was there, this is a famous story, not story, interaction between him and Srila Prabhupada. It didn't take place walking on the banks. You usually see the picture of Prabhupada walking with Guru on the banks of the Radhakund. It's not that. It was in his room, in this house, where Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj gave the instruction to Srila Prabhupada, if ever you get money, print books. If ever you get money, print books. And then he said, Agunjobi, that very soon there'll be fire in the mat. Bhaktisiddhanta, in 1936, he said this to Prabhupada. Very soon there will be fire in the mat. In other words, there'll be quarreling. There'll be fighting going on. Jostling over who's in charge. He told this to Prabhupada. He said, if I could, he said, I would tear off the marble from the temple and use it to print books. So he was a little unhappy about the state of affairs of some of the members of the Gaudiya Math, but he was definitely imposing upon Prabhupada the importance of this message being spread in a literary form all over the world. As we all know, nobody else took it up. Even those he sent in 1933 to the Western world came back with next to no results. And established one little center in London which never had anything. One old lady, English lady was there, and that was it. Nobody else was there. She took it. A few people took initiation from Europe at that time, but they weren't following strictly. It wasn't like they were full on. And anyway, that was his great desire, to see this message preached in the Western world. And Prabhupada was the one who did it. He took this message and preached in the Western world as his Guru Maharaj ordered him to do so. Very powerful empowerment from his Guru. I'm going to read now a few things to finish off. My friends, this is one of his last addresses to his disciples. He would call them his friends sometimes. Rescuers from danger. He would say that my Guru Maharaj has sent you to act as my masters. He sent you so that I can serve you. He also wrote, he said, rescuers from danger. He also wrote, if a Vaishnava does not do the work of a guru, then the spiritual Vaishnava lineage will stop. Again, if he does the work of a guru, then he becomes a non-Vaishnava. For if a guru thinks, I am a guru, then the first U letter in the word guru disappears. The word becomes garu, or cow. A real guru does not make disciples, and thus remains a guru. Here we see Siddhanta Sarasvati giving a very strong warning about entertaining. This is some comment. But yes, a real guru is one who always sees himself as a servant, not that I'm the master. Not at all. And he doesn't make disciples, he serves them. He serves, he just renders service and depends on Krishna, whatever Krishna arranges. He sees everything as the property of his guru and of Krishna. This is all pictures. My Guru Maharaj's contribution is that he defeated the caste Goswamis. He defeated this Brahmanism. He did it the same way as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kiba vipra kiba nasi shurakenanai. Ye Krishna Tattva Veta Se Guru Hai. There is no consideration whether one is sannyas, Brahmin, Shudra, Grihastha. Anyone who knows the science of Krishna, he is all right. He is a Goswami and a Brahmana. That was my Guru Maharaj's contribution. And for this reason he had to face so many vehement protests from these Brahmanas of the caste Goswamis. I'll read some quotes of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. We have a tendency, I guess you could say, of judging others and finding faults in others. Bhaktisiddhanta said, look within, amend yourself, rather than pry, means to look into, pry into the frailties of others. There is no peace or happiness in our worldly life. Circumstances create turmoil and annoyance. We can't stop it. The constitution of this world is turmoil and annoyance. What it's meant for, at least in Kali Yuga. Life is for the glorification of topics of Hari. If that is stopped, then what need is there to carry on life? Those favored by God find their path. Find their path. Where is it? Sorry. Those favored by God find their path set by thorns. We are put to test and trial in this world. Only those who attend the kirtan of the devotees can succeed. There's no other way. Prabhupada said, our only shelter is kirtan. If we don't go into kirtan, then we will be very easily affected by the material world. We are here on earth not to work as artisans for making big buildings with wood and stone, but to work as messengers for the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Dev. If I could perfectly deliver even one soul back home, back to Godhead, I would think my mission, propagating Krishna consciousness, to be successful. Be indifferent to bizarre gossips. Let's speak of now all the gossip that goes on. Don't get into it. Stick firmly to your cherished goals. No lack or impediment of the world will ever stand in your way. Let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. In this world of Maya, averse to the Lord, full of trials and tribulations, only patience, humility, and respect for others are our friends in Hari Bhajan. He would emphasize how important, how much Vaishnavas must tolerate. On that note, I do believe, maybe I'm wrong, correct me, that today is the Tirobhava of Gaur Govinda Swami when he left the world. And that was sometimes devotees would ask him questions like that. And what do we do? And this and that. He would say, tolerate. Don't give up. Just tolerate. Could be a lot worse. The Lord Gaurasundar puts his devotees in various difficulties and associations to test their patience and strength of mind. Success depends on their good fortune. Basically, good fortune is the mercy of devotees, when we get the blessings of devotees. Chant the Mahamantra loudly with attachment. This will drive away inertia, worldly evils and pests. So kirtan should go on. Is there another mic? This one's dead. When thoughts in others misguide and delude you, have patience, introspect. Find faults in yourself is a very important statement. He mentioned this over and over again. When thoughts in others misguide and delude you, have patience, introspect. Find faults in yourself. Know that the others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself. It's only when we allow this entry of negativity and maybe start believing it even sometimes. You have to try to avoid being a victim of this. When thoughts in others misguide and delude you, have patience, introspect, find faults in yourself instead of them. See what Krishna is trying to teach us. Why is this being pointed out? There's some fault in ourselves. It's a reflection of our own weakness. So no one can really harm you if we see it like that. Our span of life on earth is short. Our life will be crowned with success if the body wears out with constant discourses on Hari. To transform the adverse desires of the jiva is the supreme duty of the most merciful. To rescue one person from the stronghold of Mahamaya is an act of superb benevolence, far superior to opening innumerable hospitals. I wish that every selfless, tender-hearted person of the Gaudiya Math will be prepared to shed 200 gallons of blood for the nourishment. 200 gallons of blood for the nourishment of the spiritual corpus of every individual soul in this world. Physical illness with Hari Bhajan is preferred to physical fitness without Hari Bhajan. Do not give up devotional service even if there are innumerable dangers, countless insults and endless harassment. Do not become disheartened that most people in this world do not accept the message of unalloyed devotional service. Never give up your devotional service and hearing and chanting about Krishna, which is your everything. Always chant the holy name, becoming more humble than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree. I have given, this is the last words practically, I have given anxiety to many people as I have been compelled to speak genuinely truthful words, and as I have told people to worship Hari without any hypocrisy. There are possibly many people who even consider me an enemy, so that they may become eager to perform the sincere service of Krishna, free from other desires and deceitfulness. I have given various types of anxiety to numerous people. One day or another, they will certainly be able to understand. Taking a blade of grass, between my teeth, I fall down and again pray that I may become the dust at the feet of Srimad Rupa, birth after birth. And in his last day before he left the world, and our Prabhupada had written to him just a few weeks before, asking Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, dear Guru Maharaj, please, what can I do for you? I'm a householder, I'm very busy with family and business. Most of your disciples are renunciates, sannyasis and brahmacharis who are dedicated their life preaching. I'm doing nothing much. What can I do for you? And his spiritual master wrote back to him and said, same thing he said in 1922, dedicate your life to preaching Krishna consciousness all over the world in the English language. So on his last day, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was in Calcutta in the Bhagbazar temple, and his health had declined when he was in Jagannath Puri. We've been there in November, part of December, preaching strongly. He'd been in Dhaka also, preaching very strongly. But his health was deteriorating quickly. And he decided to go to the Bhagbazar temple and stay there until he left his body. And sure enough, although he was not necessarily showing signs of dying in terms of medical signs, but he was definitely showing it in personal ways. And he was a little bit, I'd say, unhappy about the way some of his disciples were behaving. So he decided to leave on the early morning of January the 1st, 1937. But the day before and during that evening also he requested some of his disciples, Sridhar Maharaj and one or two others, to sing various bhajans. And amongst those, favorite one of his was Sri Rupa Manjari Pada. We're not going to sing it, but that was one of his favorite, if not his favorite. Another one he requested, sing Sikshastakam, like that. Okay, Hare Krishna. I can't stay awake much longer. I apologize. But we have to get on. We have a program this morning, and we'll be leaving here as soon as we can for the program in anti-polo. So polo is a sport. polo is a sport, so this is a place that they're against polo, I guess. They don't approve polo there. Hare Krishna. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He was normally thought of as very, very staunch. Make people sit with their backs straight. He didn't sleep much, didn't eat much, and was fully engaged, didn't waste a second of time. Always engaged in one form of service or another, chanting, hearing, serving, and so on. Always teaching. Cleanliness, high on his priority list. He would chastise his disciples if the temple wasn't clean. He emphasized that realization came through service, not from learning. Submissive service. Hare Krishna. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Maharaj ki jai. So